The federal government has labelled the treatment of Australian passengers at Doha airport as offensive, grossly inappropriate and deeply concerning. The women were subjected to invasive internal examinations in an ambulance parked on the airport tarmac. Political reporter Stephanie Dalzell joins us now from Parliament House in Canberra. Steph, why did this happen?
Well, this all happened after a newborn premature baby was found in the bathroom of an airport terminal at the Hamad International Airport in Doha. As a result, all women on board the Qatar Airways flight to Sydney, including 13 Australian women, were taken off the flight into an ambulance on the tarmac. They were forced to undergo very invasive internal examinations, and as part of those examinations, they were forced to remove their underwear, but they didn't know why. One of the passengers on board the flight has told the ABC that all women were removed from the flight regardless of their age, and that when they returned they were very upset. One woman was even crying. The Foreign Minister Marise Payne says Australian authorities are seeking further information from Qatar authorities. Take a listen.
I understand inquiries are still taking place with those people affected by this occurrence, and we also understand that the matter has been reported to the Australian Federal Police. That matter is further on that is a matter for the Australian Federal Police. This is a grossly disturbing, offensive, concerning set of events. It is not something I have ever heard of occurring in my life in any context. We have made our views very clear to the Qatari authorities on this matter.
There's a real concern here. The government needs to really make the strongest possible protest to the government of Qatar, but also I think anyone who's heard those reports will be thinking with just a great deal of sympathy, and our hearts go out to the women impacted by this. This is incredibly intrusive behaviour.
Steph, have we heard anything from Qatari authorities on this?
We haven't yet, but we have heard from Hamad International Airport where the baby was found. It says that the baby had been abandoned and that it was immediately provided with care. Now, in a statement, Hamad International Airport said that medical professionals expressed concern to officials about the health and welfare of the mother, and that they wanted to find the mother because they were effectively concerned about the mother's welfare, requesting that she be located prior to leaving the airport. The statement said the baby was still unidentified but safe and in the care of medical and social workers. We put further specific questions to Hamad International Airport on the back of that statement, but the ABC has yet to hear back. Now, in terms of the women who arrived on the back of that flight to Sydney, they were immediately put into mandatory quarantine because of the coronavirus pandemic, but New South Wales Police says that they were provided with ongoing psychological and also medical support throughout that time.
Steph, thank you. The federal government has formally registered its serious concerns with authorities in Qatar about the treatment of 13 Australian women who were removed from a flight to leave for Sydney and who were subjected to invasive internal examinations after the discovery of a newborn baby in an airport bathroom. Here's Dr. Marinella Marmo from the College of Law at Flinders University. Welcome, Marinella. Can you just run us through what happened at Hamad International Airport as far as you understand it?
Good afternoon, Rose. My understanding is that on the 2nd of October in the morning, a newborn baby was found in one of the toilets at the main airport. And at the same time, a flight to Sydney was ready to take off and was being kept on the tarmac without many details shared with the 34 passengers on board of that flight. quite suddenly, after 3 hours of wait, all the women, 13 women, were asked to disembark at the plane and were subjected to an internal examination to see if they were the one giving birth to the baby, because the mother could not be found anywhere near the airport. Now, we understand that the baby is fine, but we also understand now that these women are quite traumatized by the event.
And would they have had any other option but to be subjected to these examinations?
Well, this is an interesting question, because I don't think this is a case where they could give a free and informed consent, because first we are given to understand that they didn't know what was happening and why they were examined. So they didn't know the reasons for undergoing a sudden medical check, and therefore there was not enough information. And also, probably they were explained the repercussion for not giving consent. For example, they could be placed in detention center, or they could have missed the flight. And we know during the pandemic how hard it is to come back to Australia and how expensive it is as well. And so I wouldn't say this is a case of free and informed consent.
Qatar doesn't have a good human rights record. The Australian government has registered its, quote, serious concerns, but beyond that, is there much they can do?
Well, yes, I understand that the Australian government has formally complained, but to be honest, we don't really have all the details to understand how the situation can evolve from the point of view of the Australian government and these women. I think perhaps the best way forward for the time being is for the Australian government to support these women, for example, helping with accessing support, therapeutic support, but also to launch an investigation and to collect details about this matter. This can also send a message to other countries, including Qatar. The Australia is taking this matter very seriously, and so it could be also acting as a future deterrent.
How common are these types of searches at border checks around the world, Marinella?
Well, unfortunately, my research would suggest that they are more common than what we understand. There is a lot of secrecy in this area. We understand that women more than men are subjected to internal checks. We also understand that some countries, like the US, have given enormous discretionary powers to their immigration officers, while in Australia, our officers are subjected to quite strict rules. However, we also know through the data published by the Australian National Audit Office that we also have had internal checks at international airports here in Australia on incoming passengers. However, apart from these reports that tell us numbers, so statistics, we really don't know the human side. We don't know what really happened on the ground and whether these people were traumatized by the experience. We also unfortunately know that we had cases of strip searches and cavity searches in offshore detention. We know this through evidence submitted to the federal government around 2015 and 2017. So I suppose for us in Australia, this could be a very good moment to reflect on our own practice and to think a way forward in a most constructive way.
Dr. Marinella, Marmo, thank you.
Thank you.